Months, violence and looting in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng didn't only have a major impact on the economy, but also on the environment. Toxins from fire at a chemical warehouse in Durban caused by looters were released into the air, ground and nearby wetland nature reserve. The facility is also situated across the road from a school. They, like others in the area, were completely unaware of what the warehouse held. Now, a pressure group of residents, activists, academics and researchers are demanding answers. The company maintains that it's perfectly within its rights not to disclose what the warehouse contained. But Susan Comrie from the Amabungane Center for Investigative Journalism has found and published the inventory and is now pushing for answers. Susan, thank you so much for joining us. Companies can keep a certain amount of toxic material on site, but there are worries now that they were storing way more than the recommended amount.
Absolutely. One of the things that we were pushing the company for from day one was to say, what were you storing there and how much were you storing? In terms of the National Environmental Management Act, if you're storing over 500 cubic meters of what's classified as dangerous goods, you need to do a full environmental impact assessment. If you're storing more than 80 cubic meters, you need to do a more basic version of that. But the fundamental point of those reports is, first of all, to do kind of widespread studies about what the impact of storing these chemicals in this warehouse could be if there's an explosion or a fire or something like that, but also to consult with communities so that, for instance, you don't have a situation where you have a school which is a few hundred meters away from a warehouse being completely unaware that thousands and in some instances millions of liters of chemicals that are classified either as very toxic, harmful, that they are completely in the dark, that those are just across the road from them.
The company has said that according to their zoning, they didn't need an environmental impact assessment done. And it seems like the neighborhood, the community around this factory didn't even know what was in there. Is there a failure of the oversight mechanism for businesses like this?
It's a really interesting question. We have a wide number of environmental laws. We have bylaws, we have, whether it's environmental laws, health and safety laws. All of these were meant to catch the UPL factory, the UPL warehouse before it was set up. The problem is, though, is that if the company themselves does not declare, does not engage with the regulatory process, how easy is it for regulators to know that warehouse is being set up there? The strange thing for me is this company says, we got a legal opinion. It said we didn't need these things, despite what the law says. Now, they have refused to release that legal opinion or even to discuss the kind of legal basis for the argument. But at no point, from what we can tell, do they go to regulators and say, we know what the law says, this is the legal opinion we've been given, do you agree with us? Because that would have been an opportunity before this warehouse was set up for regulators to say, well, hang on a second, people like the fire department need to be informed of what you're storing there. Because when it comes to a chemical fire, the way that you fight these fires can be different, can be quite different to how you fight a normal fire that's not involving chemical products.
Are there any investigations now into exactly how far-reaching an effect this chemical spill could be?
Well, there is a joint operations committee which has been set up, which kind of is an overarching body of a number of government entities that are busy, looking into what has happened. Unfortunately, though, that body is not transparent at all for members of the public. So members of the public have been kept very much in the dark about what steps are being taken. We're talking about an incident that happened 6 weeks ago. For the most part, no information has been released about what was stored in that warehouse, about what effects people might experience that would allow people to come forward and say, look, I'm worried I've been exposed to some very dangerous chemicals. One of the reasons that we published the inventory that we were able to access was because we felt that, it's outrageous that people are not being given adequate information about chemicals that could damage their health, not just in the short term, but in the long term, and could have quite serious impacts on vulnerable members of society like children.
Susan, it is worrying that there isn't enough information flowing from the business, and we appreciate the work that you're doing to try and expose exactly what was being kept in that warehouse. Susan Comrie from the Amabungane Center for Investigative Journalism.
Well,